Good day, ladies and gentlemen. So this is already our third video for oral communication in context. This is now our third week, and I hope you are still alive and kicking with regard our activities. You have already submitted your first 2 weeks, and now I guess you're ready to work on your third and fourth week already. So we already have here our third week set of activities. So we will first have a run through of the entire module, and then we'll give you the activities that you're going to work on for week 3 in your answer sheets. So we'll start off, of course, with our weekly targets, which are to identify the different barriers in communication, to explain why there is a breakdown of communication in a certain situation, and to use various strategies in order to avoid communication breakdown. So before I forget, the focus for third week of oral communication is effective communication strategies, because communication, in order to be successful, has to be effective. Okay, now we will proceed. Okay, again, let's proceed to activity number 1. Let's investigate. So in this activity, you will have to read and analyze the situation given and then answer the questions that follow. So the situation reads: one early morning, Kim fed his chicken at their backyard. While feeding his chicken, he sang melodiously in the song being played by his neighbor. His mother, who was inside her house, kept calling him to tell his father that breakfast was ready. So, based on this situation, do you think Kim totally heard his mother's instruction? Explain why or why not. So if you see, Kim still continued this activity, which is feeding the chicken, regardless the call from his mother, because he might not be able to have heard her call because he was melodiously singing along with the music that his neighbor is playing. Number 2, what do you think is the reason that affected the successful sending of the message from the mother to Kim? So perhaps it was the neighbor's music. Perhaps the music from the neighbor was louder than the mother's call. And so, Kim, engulfed in this music, did not receive the sound of his mother's call anymore. Number 3, what do you think is the best solution in this situation to achieve effective communication? If I were to be asked, then perhaps if Kim did not, or if the neighbor minimized the volume of his music and then Kim focused on his mother's voice more than the music from the neighbor, then communication between him and his mother would have been effective. Okay, next. Here are some questions that we need to look into before we proceed with the content of our module. What does barrier mean in communication? Can you name the barriers in communication present in the previous activity? What causes communication breakdown? Is listening necessary in communication? How will you avoid breakdown in communication? You cite a situation. Okay? So now we proceed to the very content of our modules. The problems that emanate from the source or sender. So, communication breakdowns may be caused by problems that come from the speaker or the sender of the message mismo. Example: the source, the sender, or the speaker has problems in language proficiency or his or her language skills. He or she is not able to deliver the language well, or to have enough vocabulary of the correct words to use in that language, making his or her message or delivery of the message not clear and incomplete or inconcrete. The second is the lack of sensitivity to the receiver's background. We have learned previously in the models of communication that it was theorized that the sender and the receiver must share commonalities, especially in their background, in order for communication to be effective. So the sender should be sensitive about the background of the speaker. He or she must have an idea at least of what the receiver knows about the topic, because lack of sensitivity in his part may result to miscommunication. Third, lack of preparation. Of course, for example, if you are not ready and then you are called to speak in front of the class, you might not be able to speak fluently or directly, continuously, because you have not really prepared. You were not ready to do the delivery. Same thing with some speakers who might not or who might have a lack of preparation when delivering a particular message. Fourth, negative perception of self and other emotional problems. So this could also affect communication effectiveness when the speaker looks down upon himself and is not confident about his delivery or his manner of speech or his vocabulary. When he thinks that he cannot do it, then his delivery will most probably be ineffective because he does what he thinks. We are what we think. And so what he did would be a reflection of what he is thinking. And when you think and look on yourself negatively, then your manner of delivery will expectedly be negative, and other people around you will not clearly understand your message. Lastly, language barrier. If both the sender and the receiver are from the same language, then it wouldn't be a difficulty to transmit information. However, if they are from different languages, then they might hardly be able to understand each other. The speaker, if he or she does not have the same or does not share the same language as the sender, might not be able to deliver, to transmit information and message as approximate, as exactly as he wants. That is the reason why, if we notice in international pageants like Miss Universe, we had translators for some contestants. However, the words that are given by the translator are merely not exactly the message that the contestant wanted to convey, because there is a language barrier. Next, here are some barriers of communication. First is emotional barrier. Emotional barrier are barriers that affect a person psychologically, emotionally. If, for example, somebody just got into a fight with a loved one, and then you talk to that somebody, hindi niya ka maintindihan direkta. Hindi niya mabaton ang imo nga message directly. Hindi siya makaintindi sa imo message because he is emotionally offset. His thoughts are flying. Now, this is just an example. There are many other ways by which we could experience emotional barriers, whether we be the sender or the receiver of the message. When we are emotionally unstable, we will not we will hardly understand and communicate well. That is the reason why it is very, very sensitive to talk to people who are emotionally troubled, because sometimes our language, our message would be miscommunicated, would be misinterpreted. Mahirap kumausap sa mga emotionally disturbed, especially kung bagong sugat, kasi hindi palagi nila naiintindihan ang gusto nating ipaunawa because they are emotionally disturbed. In the same way, people who are emotionally disturbed may not be able to deliver message correctly also. Second, use of jargon or unfamiliar terms. So jargons are words which are technical to a particular field. Tapos kung gamiton mo siya sa pihak na field, they may not, or they may mean another thing. Like for example, sa jargon, now we have a nautical jargon which is deck. Deck means floor sang barko. No? May deck A, may deck B. Kada story, or kung sa building, we call that story. Diba? Kung sa barko, they call that deck. Karon, kung sugarol ang imo istorya, kag deck ang imo ihambal, ang una nga masulod sa isip niya is deck naman niya sang cards. No? Because particular jargons, particular words could have meanings in different group of people. So when we use unfamiliar terms and these jargons across different backgrounds, we may not be able to communicate effectively. Third, lack of confidence. It has been stated earlier, the previous slide, now that if you look down upon yourself, if you lack self-confidence, you will not be able to deliver your message properly. May probability nga naga-stutter ka. No, if for example first time mo mag-speak, I do not know sa inyo kung kapila nyo suliton ang video nga ginpasa nyo sa introduction. No, pero if actual nga experience makita naton nga kung ibutang ka first time kag medyo hindi ka pa confident, somewhere in the middle, even sa start, no, you will begin to lose your communication skills. Maa ka, ma-stutter ka, malose ang imo nga information. And lastly, noisy environment. Kung maingay yung paligid, kahit nagkakaunawaan pa or same language pa ang ginagamit natin, same emotional state tayo, kahit pa perfect match tayo for communication, kung maraming disturbance mula sa ating environment, mula sa external factors, hindi magiging effective ang communication natin. Kahit gaano ka pa ka-faithful, minsan may mga outside factors talaga na disturbo sa inyong connection. So we have to try our best to keep our focus, our loyalty to that communication. Bisan pila pa katemptasyon ang maglabay para ma-disturb ang aton communication. Okay? Next, here we have the features of an effective communication. We have 7 identified features in your module. First is completeness. Kailangan, no, your message must include everything. It should be detailed and perfect so that it will not be miscommunicated. If you remember a very common game back in the times, na may face-to-face pa. We have what we call the send or pass the message. Okay, pass the message. Now, sa pass the message, kinanglan kumplito ang ginahambal mo nga message. Otherwise, pag abot to sa punta sa last player, lain na ang communication na iya nga mabaton because sang kakulang sang information. Kag manotice nyo man na, as the communication travels, naga-change ang iya nga completeness. So it has to be complete para hindi siya ma-miscommunicate. Ikadawa, conciseness. It should not beat around the bush. Now, this is one feature that we need to look into when we work with communication in the academy or in school. Why? Because many of you thought that if we write with a lot of beautiful words, our teachers will be impressed. But most of the time, you teachers are impressed with the language but hardly understand your message because you were not direct to the point and you created more of a disturbing language, more of a disruption than your actual message or information. Then third, consideration. Again, we should consider relevant information about the receiver or the sender. You cannot just say anything to anybody. You must put particular margins, particular boundaries, and consider first the status of the sender, the status of the receiver before you deliver the message. Number 4, concreteness. It has to be factual. It has to be supported with figures and examples in order for our receivers to understand the message. Sometimes mahirap po yung makinig lang na hindi mo nauunawaan dahil nga hanggang dun lang, limited lang sa information, ang information na binigay. Pero kung sinuportahan ng mga examples, dun mo mauunawaan ang ibig niyang sabihin. Kaya kailangan minsan your message has to be concrete, meaning hindi siya mahuyang, na mapag-un siya because it is based on facts and supported by examples. Number 5, courtesy. Respecting culture, values, and beliefs of receivers and senders. Kung DDS man na siya, hindi siya pagpilita kundi siya magpati, no? Nga muna ang imo panindugan as an opposition. Okay? Next, clearness. Use of simple and specific words to express ideas, almost as similar to conciseness. Simplify and direct to the point. It should be simple, but it should be concrete and complete. Then, correctness. Of course, with the correct use of grammar, with the correct use of language, you will be able to create effective communication. Because kung mali-mali ang language nga ginamit mo, kung mali-mali ang grammar mo, ang arrangement, ang syntax ng imo words, bisan ang words pa nga imo gamit kung sala, pwede gid nga maglain ang meaning kag ma-misinterpret ka sang mga nagapamati sa imo. Okay? So here, we now proceed to your activity 2, which is faces. Use your personal experiences and provide the details which are asked in the table. Kita tanan, tayong lahat, we have all experienced communication barriers personally, whether noong face-to-face pa or kahit ngayon No, kahit virtual yung mga conversations, kahit sa chat lang, we experience communication barriers. So what are examples of communication barriers that you have personally experienced? List them down on the table and then try to give a solution for each. Ano ang imo solusyon sa amo na nga barrier nga natabo sa imo? This could be a solution that you have already done and succeeded with, or this could be a solution that you are still planning to do. Next, activity 3. Give possible solutions to the breakdown that the barriers in communication. So kagina, just as it was before, no, in the former activity 2, we are going to identify the barrier. Kagina ya personal experience diriya with a particular situation. Anong barrier of communication yung pinapakita sa situation? At ano ang mga posible nating maging solusyon para ma-solve ang miscommunication? For example, sa number 1, you have a friend who works in an isolated area. Na subong mauso ang isolation. Subong may mga gina-separate, for several days because of COVID-19. So, what are barriers of communication that could arise from this situation, and what could be possible solutions to that barrier? Number 2, you have a sibling who is very talkative and you cannot find a quiet place to study. Hey, especially subong because we do our study at home. If nag-study kita, may mga oras nga gusto naton malinong. That's the reason why damo na mga basa akon nga gabi sila kuno gatuon kitulog na ang mga bata. Okay? Pero if in case there is really noise like this, a sibling who is very talkative at home while you are trying to do your study, what barrier of communication is presented and how do we give solution for that? Number 3, you are working in a noisy and crowded place and effective communication is a problem. The answer for the barrier seems already there, a noisy and crowded place. So what are you gonna do about it? Number 4, you are conversing with a cousin who has a lot of frustrations in life. So perhaps desperada, frustrated, very emotionally unstable. What barrier of communication is presented there and how could that be solved? Number 5, you have a classmate with difficulty in hearing. Now last year I had a student who has difficulty of hearing. She has to wear her hearing aid always. There are times when she does not, or she forgot to put on her hearing aid. We in the classroom had a hard time trying to communicate with her. What barrier is presented there and how can this be solved? Okay, so these are the contents or the answers that you would list down for your activity number 3. Then we have your activity 4, reflection, entitled self-mirror. What kind of communicator are you before and now? Of course, through the years we have learned to develop our communication skills, and probably we became better or some worsened. It depends. Now, so what kind of communicator are you? Try to look back years before now and see your experience as a communicator, and then compare it vis-a-vis your present day practice and skills in communication. Write down your answers in your activity 4 answer sheet. Then, last part, this is supposed to be an objective part, but we'll share with you some answers so that you will not have a hard time trying to answer the questions there in your answer sheet. This is part of the answer sheet. That's why I included it here in our presentation. Okay, so all you have to do is to identify or to write down the correct answer from the choices given. Okay, so for numbers 1 and 2, there's one situation here. Arlene got a low grade on her performance test in the subject oral communication. She felt sad and alone. She didn't even participate or give any response to her friends' conversations. What is the barrier that affects the behavior of Arlene in not conversing with her friends? So what caused Arlene? What gave Arlene the reason not to communicate? Because she got a low grade. She felt sad and therefore alone. So it would be emotional. Letter A, emotional. Next, how could her friends cheer her up? What could be the possible answer for number 2? They will invite her to buy her favorite ice cream. They will make jokes and show her funny faces. They will give her a hug and tell her that they are willing to help her to improve her grades. They will sing a song to cheer her up and ask her to sing along with them to release negative vibes. Well, practically, all of these choices could be the answers. But if we have to be particular with the situation and incongruence to the situation, we have to choose letter C, because only letter C mentioned about her grades, which is the reason why she was sad. Next, number 3 situation. Emmanuel discussed to Kian the details about the tasks on their module. Alan, her older brother, started to play his electric guitar loudly. Okay, so they were talking, Emmanuel and Kian were talking, and then suddenly there's this loud voice or loud noise from the electric guitar played by Alan. What could be the effect of the guitar's noise on Emmanuel and Kian's discussion? Of course, they cannot work properly. They cannot manage to concentrate. It may not help them to do their task because it wasn't just soft music, it was loud and destructive music. So the correct answer would be letter D. Emmanuel and Kian could hardly concentrate working on their module. Next, if you were Emmanuel and Kian, what will be the best thing to do to avoid breakdown and communication? They will put on their earphone to avoid disturbance, but they may not understand each other also. They will just ignore the noise created by electric guitar and start shouting with each other in order to understand their exchange. They will join their brother instead of working on their module and not finish anything for the day. Or they will inform their brother that they are working on their module. So the correct answer again is letter D, to inform their brother to pause and stop playing the guitar loudly, because at that time they are doing their modules. Number 5. Last number. Jean was not able to take her second summative test because her mother was sick. She sent an excuse letter to her advisor, but she knew that this will affect her grade if she totally missed it. When she returned to school, she went to her teacher and asked permission if she can take the summative test during the homeroom time. Her teacher allowed her to take the test because she had a valid reason for missing it. So how is communication attained in this situation? Letter A says that the message is complete, clear, concise, and casual. Letter B, message is complete, clear, concise, and courteous. Letter C, complete, clear, concise, and congruent. And letter D, complete, clear, concise, and complacent. Which do you think? Which of the 4 choices has the characteristics of effective communication presented in the situation? The correct answer, yes, is letter B. The message is complete, clear, concise, and courteous, because there is a respect from Jean to approach her teacher. So here, ladies and gentlemen, ends our module and week number 3. If there are any questions, please feel free to communicate with me and communicate effectively. Thank you once more, and God bless.